everyone. I'm Darian Gold, and welcome to All Things Pilates Season 6. As we dig deeper into the life of a contrologist, this season's guest list shares what the Pilates methodology can offer to anyone who desires health and wellness. On this show, we'll explore, seek, and investigate what's possible when we incorporate contrology into our lives. As we close out Season 6, I think we can all agree we learned a lot from our guests, and they seem to have a really good time sharing their expertise with us. I know we all thank them, and I in particular thank them for allowing me to interview them and pick their brains. Here's a look back at all the guests of Season 6.
I'm just standing here, and he came back a few minutes later and said, "Tell me your birthday." And he asked him for his birthday. He gave him his birthday. And Lawrence was 29 at the time that he was first introduced to Joseph. And left. He went into the back. And he said,
Wait a second.
He was researching some.
So
yes.
He left him standing for the second time.
Yes.
Oh my.
After he got his birthday, he said he could see him. He was looking through some books and making some notes, and he came back out and he said, "I've been waiting for you."
Oh.
Yes. So there was a definite meant to be aspect and spiritual connection between them. And that is something that Lawrence had always said from the very beginning.
How long was she on chemotherapy?
For about 7 months. Yes.
How does that take a toll on the body?
It takes a pretty big toll, I have to say. Watching her when she was diagnosed, she was a healthy little girl. She was 7 years old, doing gymnastics 6 hours a week. She was an athlete, very competitive. She was competing in gymnastics, super healthy, vibrant, would never think that there was anything wrong with her. And one day she started limping. That's how we discovered that something was wrong. Never that it was.
Did you think she fell off the balance beam incorrectly?
That's exactly what we thought. We thought that she fell off the balance beam, maybe landed a little bit wrong, maybe had a hairline fracture somewhere in her bone. So we did what anyone else would do, is we took her to the doctor. The doctor looked at her leg and said,
"There's so much lore that goes on. And maybe I had been told it was Steve Giordano, but maybe he'd gotten it from Basil. I don't know."
Can you say more about the lore? Because there is a lot of lore going on.
Here's what it felt like when I was going through my apprenticeship. When I went through my apprenticeship and Romana would tell me and us all these stories, it was like as though Joseph Pilates was this godly being. And we got to know about was like how amazing he was and how blessed we could possibly be that we were here with her and Dragos. And oh, wow. And I think that was fun to be under that lure as an apprentice, but it starts to become this kind of godlike worship. And then when you stop and think about it, you're like, well, it's not possible that he never had to take an aspirin in his life. It's not. You didn't hear about Mr. Pilates' life.
Let me ask you about our fabulous Pilates method that keeps us from being hunched over. What would you say is the best thing that you have learned or that you incorporate in your life?
Well, definitely I feel like the connection between my mind and my body is really nice, because a lot of sports it's just, go, go, go. But Pilates really, tunes your mind and what you do. So I think that's really nice. I know a lot of people. I have friends that take Pilates, have taken Pilates, and they just don't have the same control that Pilates gives that I have from Pilates. Even
Wait. Say that again. So you have friends who have their own practice, or they do another kind of sport?
They do volleyball, and they came to my mom's studio to do Pilates.
So you're using Gratz Industries as your template, but then you saw places that potentially needed.
I mean, every place, there is nothing. There is
Can you give an example?
Yeah, sure. But let me just say this quickly. What I used Gratz classical equipment, what I used it for was understanding what people's muscle memory is. So the measurements, like, I think I'm being very bold here. But I think I have measurements and insights to the ratios of the dimensions of Gratz equipment that they might not even have because they never needed to.
T, what would you say is your main focus?
My main focus for the company is to provide the most accurate and efficient service along with information to anyone who owns or works with Pilates apparatus. That is the main focus, is to make sure that everyone at least knows the basics of it. I believe it's important for everyone to know the basics of the apparatus that they're using every day and that they're using to help other people rehabilitate, and as well as to how to maintain it. Maybe you shouldn't know how to do the whole service, but maybe you should know what it entails at least. For example, if you drive a car, a bare minimum, you should know how to fill it with gas, right? Like, if you don't know where to open up the gas tank, chances are you'll be stuck somewhere. I mean, others might agree that you should even know a little bit more than that, considering that you are the one operating the machine.
Yes.
My dad would say you should know how to change your wheels and you should know how to change your oil, things like that.
How soon after you were in the company did you meet Kathy Grant?
Well, Kathy was a fixture there in the summer. So when I went in the first summer, I met her and she was there. And she was there teaching the summer for, she was doing the contrology, even though she didn't call it anything. It was just,
What?
some exercise.
She didn't call it anything?
I don't remember that they call it anything. It was just some strengthening exercises on the floor. Or maybe I wasn't paying attention.
She didn't even mention Joe Pilates?
No, I don't remember. I remember I didn't understand English. Like, it took me 5 years to understand English. It took me 5 years. So I will observe a lot and I will copy a lot.
In Eva Rinke's book, Joseph Pilates, A Biography, she covers a number of experiences that Joe had as a child, as well as when he was interned on the Isle of Man during World War I. And we can also cite John Steele's book and how he describes what was going on with Joe in New York at his Contrology studio. How might Joe have benefited from therapy?
Yeah, it's interesting to... those are two great sources. I think Eva's book's a really fantastic biographical source. There's a lot of detail there about his life and plenty of first-hand testimonies. And John Steele's book, somebody who knew him really well, and it's a very, I think, a really interesting read about his character, particularly, later in life. And I think what you see with Joe is this idea of how do we develop as a person? How do we cope? How do we cope with life,
The problem with Kathy, she can't lie very well. And it's true. She was not a liar. And that's why you didn't go and ask her a question unless you were ready for the truth. In fact, when I first wanted to get certified, I said, I'd like to get certified. And she goes, oh, really? And I said, yes, please. And she sort of like, okay, do the hundreds. And I did the hundreds. And she goes, and this was wrong, and this was wrong, and this was wrong. And I was like, oh, okay. And then a few months later, I realized that was a little bit of a test. And I said, so I went back and I said, I'm actually not asking you, I'm telling you, I'm going to get certified.
Oh.
And she's like, I'll call Romana. Oh. Right? It was a little bit of a rite of passage, like you're going to do. So because I was also going to represent her, not just me, right? So, and it was a very special thing. She actually had not spoken to Romana in a few years. It was literally.
Did Romana treat you well? So the mind obviously plays a big role in how the body heals.
Huge. I think the main component of the mind that helps the body heal is conscious, though, and I want to talk about that, and that's the positive attitude. If you have a positive attitude in your mind and you cement it there, no matter how good or bad things are, and it stays fixed that way, that kind of provides the so-called leadership for your body to stay on a certain path always. Again, like I said, I write notes for my chores every day. This is a chore that is written in my mindset every day. You are going to try and get better. You are going to try and get better. And it can help lead the body on that path.
I think that if it's used appropriately and not in a dangerous way, performing in Pilates can be wonderful, but I just think that it's important that the student is careful and safe, and the teacher is careful and safe, and no one feels discouraged or defeated, right?
What would you say to those students who want to do good for their, not necessarily show off for their teacher, but they do want the praise? What do you say to those kind of students who might carry around a lot of anxiety, so that anxiety is mixed in with wanting to do a good job for themselves and also for their teacher? What do you do with all that anxiety?
I know what to do with it because I'm that person, Arian, truly. I know I've been that person. I'm working on that right now with myself. I'm working on that as a human being, but I understand what that feels like. So.
And part of it is just the feeling, and I'll have to admit, part of it is just bias because it's what I started with. It feels like my first baseball mitt. It feels like my first pair of skis. There's something about it. It's like grandma's cooking for me.
It's true.
It's sort of something home for me. So it had to be Grot.
Understood.
Although it did infuriate me when they told me how long it would take to build.
Oh, and we are going to talk about that, but for sure. But first, will you share with our listeners a little bit about your own business background that gives you the qualifications to be able to come in and take over Grotz Industries?
I guess I'll go first. So I have a career in tech, 25 years running HR for small, medium, and large companies.
As you know, Joe didn't create anything that was easy. It's a really challenging method. And we both know people that tried it and didn't fall in love and gave up because it's so challenging. What keeps the fire lit for you?
Well, as a kid, I took lots of dance for years, and I loved it. I felt accomplished. I felt proud. And when I began Pilates, and I know this is sort of a visual, but it made me feel as if the circle had closed, so that the feeling that I had from dance is exactly what Pilates brought me back to. That same feeling of accomplishment and pride.
Susanna, today we're delving into footwork, the literal foundation of the method. How do you define footwork?
Footwork, how do I define it? It's a great opener, isn't it?
Very much.
It's a great way to see the body you're about to lead through Pilates. You can learn so much in those moments. It's not overly complicated for the person doing the footwork, but it's this overload of information for the person that's about to teach. You see what came in off the road, and it helps you ask a question that they weren't thinking about telling you about. Their back, their knee, their ankle, their heel, their shoulder, the whole thing is just right there for you. So I think that's a great gift that footwork gives us.
Physical culture gets a little tricky. And I think some of those laws, it's really important to make sure that you are in a space that's deemed for it. And with having these standards, we would be able to put into place what type of commercial spaces we would also be able to rent.
I wonder if that would also impact insurance.
The goal is to hopefully. So if you are already abiding by standards, maybe you get a lower premium with your insurance, or you they know that X amount of injuries have happened per year, which gives you an even greater discount because they're not concerned about you. Or if you have a certain square footage, things like that. Or the other big one that my husband and I spoke about was if you get your studio properly maintained every X amount of times per year, you should be able to get a lower premium on your insurance.
And it's not like Pilates teachers specifically present differently.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, I actually love working with Pilates teachers. I love working with Pilates teachers and yoga instructors. Yeah, I mean, just they're really dropped in. Like that whole idea, it's almost like there's this whole first boundary that I don't have to work through. It's like I can just be. I mean, I have a client that I've been seeing for years, and she is a Pilates instructor, and we have so much fun when I have a session with her because we talk shop, basically. I mean, she's super dropped in. She's super aware. And when something is going on, she's like, I want to explore this and I want to know more and I want to understand it. And I want this knowledge for not only myself, but also for my clients. And, we want to understand the physical human body.
Where do you host your retreats?
Well, the next one we have, by the way, it's called the Pilates Business and Beyond Retreat.
Oh.
And the Beyond part is the absolutely imperative part of it because that is the part where you go away.
That's the dessert.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in this case, that's the chocolate, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the next retreat is in Crans-Montana, Switzerland. Crans-Montana is actually in the heart of the Alps. It's a ski domain in a highly sought after area that people want to go and stay in. Think 360 degrees, of views of the Alps. We have a number of beautiful activities that are balanced out because we don't want to be just doing business, of course. You want to have a little bit of fun.
Talent is God-given. Be thankful. Praise is man-given. Be humble. Conceit is self-given. Be careful. Dave Driscoll, high school football coach. And finally, thank you so much for keeping All Things Pilates podcast on your podcast list. By the way, ATP has its own website now, allthingspilatespodcast.com. Spring 2025 will be more interesting with Season 7. Until then, keep doing the work because the work works.